Alright, so I'm going to do a quick lesson for 9th grade geography. I do apologize if some of the terms I use are wrong. I do typically teach this class in French. So initially we have this simulation from PhET, and it allows us to look at the different continental crusts and oceanic crusts and how they interact. So let's say we had a continental crust and an oceanic crust, doesn't really matter, old or young. And there's convergence between the two plates. When there's convergence, one will necessarily fall under the other. Typically, the lighter crust will fall under the thicker crust. And what we have eventually is this little buildup of heating up magma. And that will put pressure on the plate above it and create these mountains. This is, in fact, what we have with the Rockies in Canada. However, what happens if you have two continental crusts? Now, if you have a convergence between two continental crusts, neither one is thicker than the other. So when they hit one another, it'll be a plain Jane convergence. And we will see the creation of very, very, very large mountains. I will give you the challenge to find where in the world you might find that kind of convergence and what mountain range they made. Now, that's the case in which they converge, and we'll see that it's pretty much the same if we have two smaller crusts, two oceanic crusts, that is. So let's say I had this a young oceanic crust, then I'll have subduction. But if I have two young crusts or two old crusts, typically they won't even go in the same. They won't go into the same pressure direction. In fact, here we see that that's not even an option. However, we can have transcurrents where the two crusts rub against one another. This will typically create faults, and next to each fault you'll have a little bit of buildup created by the residue from what used to be in the fault. Now, the other option is what we call divergence. So if the two crusts actually separate from one another, then what we have here, if you recognize it, is the creation of new oceanic crusts. In fact, that's what we have in the middle of the Atlantic, as the Atlantic is expanding and the Pacific is shortening. So we do have that creation of new oceanic crusts. And I think that'll be enough for this little exercise. Thanks for watching.